Hello, Madrid. This is welcome back to another episode of Let's Be Real podcast. If you guys are new here, don't forget to smash the likes and subscribe to the channel. We are on the road to 4K. Big up our sponsors as always, Fanatics. Go check them out, official partners of La Liga and Real Madrid. Make sure you use the affiliated link in the description below so that they know you guys came through us. Also, go show some love to Talksport, the biggest sports radio station in the world. Everything on LBR is officially powered by the Talksport Fan Network. Right then, before we begin, I would like to shout out a lot of people actually who came forward in the DMs, especially on Spotify and whatnot, and was really appreciative of what we have done over the years and how we have stuck to what we do and not really chased the clicks and the clickbait stuff and being real and yeah, always had a very realistic perspective, like what a name would suggest. And yeah, I would like to thank them again. And yeah, it really means a lot to us. And I've always said this, it's the people who tune in, it's the people who communicate with us regularly and make it a point to have a discussion about the games we see. Is the very reason why we are here. So yeah, man, thank you again. We have built up a truly incredible community over the years, and I'm grateful for it. So is Sahil, so is all of us, to be honest. But
Yeah,
um,
absolutely, guys.
on to the matters at hand. Right then, we had the opportunity to open the gap to 8 points going into match day 11 of the 25-26 La Liga season against a struggling Valencia. A Valencia side that has won just one of their last four games. Uh, they're kind of used to this early relegation fight, and then somehow managing to claw their way back towards the latter phases of the season. But I truly do hope that they are gone forever, and and I hope they really do become an afterthought, because if it was any other club, I would feel a bit sympathetic. I would feel a bit distraught for them and their fans. But Valencia and the henchmen, yeah, they are a bad advert for La Liga. Um, we tend to have fierce clashes. I would miss that. There is a very tangible rivalry there over the years, but and the obviously the mystique of the Mestalla. It's such an incredible stadium. The atmosphere is unmatched. I'll be honest, is one of the most fiercest all across Europe. I would give them that, but for what they have done to us, and the way they have basically conducted themselves, over the years, I would feel no sympathy for Valencia. They were at our mercy from minute 1 to minute 90. That there wasn't really any sort of threats from Valencia. You could argue the Javiguera shot at the end, where it struck the near post of Thibaut and kind of had a chance of going in. But apart from that, Valencia rarely, laid a glove on us. We just, took them to the cleaners. It was a wave after wave of attacks. People taking pot shots from 40 yards, 30 yards, 50 yards. Yeah, it wasn't really a match where we could say, we really kind of made a good showing of ourselves. Sahil would probably disagree. For me, it was Valencia, not really giving us something to fight for. It was just them laying down the tools, and us taking advantage. I mean, obviously, given the circumstances, we can't really lay back. We have a really important trip to Anfield in a couple of days. This was a really good warm up, much needed warm up. The spirits will be high. But on the other hand, I would think, is this really this sort of game you want to play before you go to Anfield? Losing in Anfield isn't the end of the world. It's not going to have maybe a huge bearing on where we stand in the league phase come match day 6. But uh, it will really affect our morale if we lose badly to them, or if we not take at least a point from Anfield. So I'm not sure this was the perfect preparation in that sense, but yeah, I'll take this, man. 4-0, some incredible goals. We'll get into all of that. Big up Sahil. Talk to me, man. Like how's the feeling? Post Clasico, there has been a renewed sense of appreciation from the general public, for what Xabi Alonso has done and the sense of control that he has brought to the side. It was on full display tonight.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Tonight and in the Classico as well. But like you mentioned, Sunil, firstly, I'd like to thank those that have supported us and actually gone as far as appreciating what we do and what we bring to this community via our DMs and our comment sections on various social media platforms. Yeah, the support means the world to myself, Sunil, Farouk, all of us. But also, yeah, more of what we saw against Barcelona, very possession heavy today, against a honestly struggling Valencia side that failed to threaten any piece of Thibaut Courtois' goal until that strike from range hit, the post, the frame of the goal. And obviously, you could say Valencia were unlucky there, but apart from that, they didn't really pose any major threat throughout the game. So it's not like they had much um, to complain about, and neither do Real Madrid. Honestly, like if a team is gonna play, if it's gonna come out and play like that and be wary at the same time, as defending in the boxes, but not really doing well,
Mm.
uh, you can
Yeah.
you can put all your men in the box, but if you're not going
Mm-hmm.
to be positionally aware and if you're not going to follow each man that the ball goes to against a side that is effectively fielding five midfielders, um, then you're going to be in trouble, right? Because Xabi Alonso's style has been noticeably being, it's leaving an imprint on these players, and it's leaving um, it's leaving its signs
Mm-hmm.
on this group and this unit with each
Yeah.
passing game that it plays, because now you can see that there is effectively a style of play, some patterns, there are some
Mm-hmm.
implications to what his style is and what he truly wants out of this team, even when the team isn't playing well. But
Mm-hmm.
today was one of the final examples of what he brings as a coach or a manager. um, Obviously the headline is going to be Kylian Mbappe. He got to present his golden boot to the Bernabeu crowd, and that was beautiful in itself because coming in and to his first season and exemplary season, the president had words of praise for him when he did get presented with the trophy. Um, and his second goal tonight was absolutely brilliant. It was a touch of class. Like that is something that you would see from a world class striker. And I know we've commented on this before, and we've criticized him on not exactly fitting into what a nine would be. But I'm sure, Sunil, even you will find that piece of positioning and
Yeah.
getting himself in the box is what we want from our nine. Like as much
Mm-hmm.
as we appreciate what he does between the lines, as much as we appreciate his movements and his little pieces of skills on out on the left, as we have always done throughout not just his Real Madrid career, but with PSG and with France. He is this team's center forward, and he has to bring the goals. Um, and I think the Golden Boot has only pushed him more and more, and
Mm-hmm.
he brought his teammates on to present it in front of, and that was again that was quite the gesture, because it wouldn't, like, honestly, it wouldn't have been possible without players like Arda Güler finding him with a pinpoint cross or with an accurate ball like Jude Bellingham did in the Clasico. Without those teammates, Kylian Mbappe is not scoring even 20 goals in any season, and no matter
Yeah.
how individually gifted that player is. Um, and also, like you mentioned about Valencia, you have no sympathies for a team like Valencia. There are other teams that play absolutely pathetic football. There's Getafe play in the same league, but you don't feel the same way about Getafe. You feel that they play ugly football. Feel the same way about Athletic Madrid. Um, but what these fans have, it's not just an ideological struggle. It's also a human side of things, right? What these fans have behaved like in the past at the Bernabeu and at their home stadium Mestalla is absolutely like rogue nature at its it's hooliganism. So after having, I think we lost the Bernabeu game last year against Valencia, where
Yeah,
Hugo
yeah.
Duro, one of our academy's past players, scored against us, and that hurt a little bit to watch because we don't lose those games usually. And that was obviously an off night. The Real Madrid didn't show up that night last season, so it was nice to get one back on a team that we shouldn't be struggling against. That in no
Mm.
world do we struggle for 3 points against Valencia, especially not when they're in this kind of form. But I'll leave the rest over to you.
Yeah. About the Mbappe bit, I'll be very honest. I've said this many a times. Mbappe isn't a bad finisher. Mbappe isn't a bad uh, center forward. But I've said this time and time again. We need a reference in the box, and Jude Bellingham has provided that. I think I touched upon this during the Clasico, when Jude Bellingham is allowed to have the freedom that he has right now, especially against a Valencia side that isn't going to really threaten us. It was basically Jude Bellingham and Arda Güler taking turns to pick locks behind the defense. That basically allows Jude Bellingham to actually lead the attack in a sense, and Mbappe to be the guy who feeds up scraps. And in transition, it's a completely different game. In transition, you can argue any half decent winger or no, attacker can actually look pretty lethal positionally. You know what I mean? But against deep lying blocks, we need Jude Bellingham's reference. If we have a chance to actually if there's a chance that comes our way that needs a bit more thinking than the average attacker. But Mbappe, man, 18 goals already this season. People would argue that he shouldn't have laid off the third pen. I mean, the second pen, the chance at a hat trick to Vinicius. Xabi Alonso looks, absolutely livid. When
Didn't the
that.
same happens at some point last season as well,
Mm,
where we didn't know who our best penalty taker was, and then both Vinny and Mbappe kept missing
it's not.
pens.
No, Sile, you're mistaken. The designated penalty taker is always going to be Mbappe. But then I think the players, they have a sort of, I think
Understanding,
this,
yes.
not understanding, they have the freedom to actually lay off a pen if they want to their teammate, to get their morale up. It can be a multitude of reasons, and we have seen that even last
Fair
year.
enough.
But I don't think Xabi Alonso
Ancelotti was
wanted that.
pissed, wasn't he? Ancelotti was
Mm,
pissed at was
mm,
Mbappe when he laid
mm,
off a pen early in the season, where it was this
mm,
exact same situation where we had
mm.
not we'd missed a few pens, but I'm sure it
Yeah.
did happen. Yeah,
So this whole Xabi Alonso Vinicius dynamic isn't really looking great. The more I read into what's uh what's kind of hidden between the lines, basically, the body language on the touchline and whatnot. I mean, they're cordial in the sense, Vinicius actually shook Xabi Alonso's hand and whatnot. But I just hope Vinicius and his entourage, which is making a lot of noise, actually they have to really lock in, man, because going into January, February, we don't want this situation to be the center stage of what we're doing, and not what's happening on the pitch, because um, the more I read about what's going on, whether it be true, whether it be false, I always have the um, utmost respect for Athletic. Like I know a few of the people who actually report for Athletic, report the Madrid stuff for Athletic, and they do tend to have some credible information. When they go on about, the players aren't really happy, there is a lot more restraint. There's a lot more discipline being imposed. A lot less freedom, especially in an attacking sense and whatnot. I do fear for Xabi Alonso, because I've said this. This is a 4-0 win, but since I read about this in the midweek, I had to kind of bring this up since we're on the topic. Um, these players have to absolutely buy into what Xabi Alonso demands and what this project is heading towards, because without that, we are going to have a disconnect that's not going to really help us against the big sides. Um, the Clasico, we were here, we shouldn't really have to talk about what Vinicius did when he walked off if he didn't do that. So it's not just the press and the fans. When Vinicius does that, it's the dressing room as well that sees it in 4K, and it really leaves a bad precedent. And when any player or their entourage goes against Papa Perez, it's always Perez on the winning side. And that's what really bothers me about the Vinicius situation and his contract and whatnot, and his form as well. Yes, he is electric. Yes, he is a guy who can create a chance out of nothing. He is just an enigma, in the true sense of the word. But when it comes to tangible assists, tangible goals, he is nowhere in the picture, nowhere in the running for the top 2, 3, 4 players in the world at the moment, and that's a bit concerning for not just Vinicius, but for for the people that really want to back him, in this sort of contract negotiations with Madrid, demanding what Mbappe and so on. It's really unwanted stuff. We knew this was going to happen. This happened with Neymar at Barcelona. This is a situation that keeps happening in football, and we as a club, fortunately, are in the right hands in terms of actually, not really, taking the bait when it comes to things like this. So
it's an entourage issue more than anything, so because we've seen players in the past, star players more so, demand things of big clubs that aren't really feasible, and then they have a falling out, and then even if the contract gets renewed, things aren't the same anymore. And then like with Vinny, it's like after what happened in the Clasico, there was always going to be murmur about is he having a falling out with Xabi Alonso? Is he not happy in how many minutes he's getting in the position that he's playing? Because let's not forget, Xabi Alonso isn't really, his relationship with Rodrigo isn't really thriving either. Mastantuono is new to the club. Kylian Mbappe is pretty much the only individual at this moment who's in a stable position in terms of both his form and his future at the club right now. Endrick is going to go out on loan. So there's a lot of instability that I see with how some of our attackers are placed, individually, not just Vinny, it's the environment around him. And with Vinny, there's always going to be a little bit of that ego issue, right? Because he did consider himself to be the face of this project, to be the face of what Ancelotti built for 3 seasons, and where we won those 2 Champions Leagues, because he was pretty much, besides Karim Benzema, our talisman in those 2 campaigns. So you cannot take that away from Vinny. You cannot take away what he's done for this club, and how do I even put it? Like, just the quantity of what he's contributed. Because Kylian Mbappe, even if he does this for a couple more seasons, say we go on to win a Champions League, Vinny has been here longer, right? So it's not about who the club or the board respects more or values more in this moment, but it's also the coach. Like, Xabi Alonso absolutely does see Kylian Mbappe as pivotal right now, and I don't know if it's another Messi Neymar situation. I don't know if Vinny thinks of himself as the man who's going to continue being the face of the project, because if that is, then there's going to be problems. But for right now, the only solace that us Real Madrid fans can find in this particular situation is that the situation on the pitch, like the results on the pitch, I should say, are relatively okay, and at least that is saving some saving grace from how much worse the situation could have been, because we've seen multiple situations across bigger clubs, not bigger clubs, just bigger situations, pardon the language, with bigger players, sorry. So with Vinny, it's a matter of time, and we're gonna see what happens with his contract situation. I think once that gets sorted out, there's gonna be a lot less chit chat and a lot less news coming out of Madrid about his future and his relationship with Xabi Alonso, because once the money and the future, the terms of his contract gets sorted out, obviously they're gonna try and meet in the middle. That's usually what happens. But if there's no compromise, then
there's not going to be a meeting in the middle, unfortunately, with us, because if he's pushing to earn as much as Mbappe, and if he's kind of looking towards numbers in the reign of arguably the best player in the world, bar none, it's going to be tricky. So let's move on. Like I'm telling you, this is unprecedented in terms of how a player who, when Cristiano does it, I get it.
Yeah,
he is pound for pound the best player to have kicked a ball, since fucking Pele, Maradona, themselves. But so the sense of it's okay. But Vinicius, in the vein of form he is in right now, when he is kind of making all this noise, and his entourage is making all this noise, and him, basically storming off the pitch. We don't want that. We don't want that. I just hope, like what Sahil said, this fixes itself, and I just hope what I hear about Xabi Alonso is wrong. I mean, I've seen some comments in on Twitter and stuff where fans are claiming that we need a manager who is a lot more distant, who is a lot more cold. Xabi Alonso comes from the tutelage of the likes of Mourinho, who was a bit more a bit more hands-on and completely just opposite to how Carlo operated. But I'm not sure.
But you must not forget, he's also been under the tutelage of several other managers. He's also been under Guardiola and Ancelotti and all of the big managers in Europe. So I think there's a little bit that he's taken from each of their styles and implemented onto his own. I don't doubt
the man management side is what bothers me, because his body language on the touchline when certain things happen isn't great. Isn't great. And
but also he's a young manager, Sinead, right? Like I know he's spent a couple years at Leverkusen, but you've got to give him that.
We have all accepted that he is a guy who is learning on the job, and it'll take time. But when it comes to the clashes of ego with star players, it tends to be like this, especially when it comes to younger managers. Sahil is right in pointing that out. But moving on, Vinicius misses the pen. I mean, unfortunate. The pen was so weak. I mean, the placement was really poor, super easy for the keeper. But man, back to Mbappe, we have to give him his flowers. 18th goal of the season. This was actually his first left-footed finish of the season. Just brilliant on the volley. I mean, the sort of anticipation and the sense of positioning that he had for the other goal, because if he's too tight to his centre back, it's basically no Mbappe zone. So he kind of fully understood the assignment, knew what his strengths were. That is not to actually leap ahead of the centre back, but to actually peel away and wait for the ball in behind the centre back, and it was perfect. The volley, first time finish, just immaculate timing. And Mbappe, as much as good as he has done, he has a lot to owe to Arda Güler as well, man. His 5th assist for Mbappe. This duo looks like they have sky is the limit at the moment, because everything that they touch turns to goal. If you remember, Sahil, I think the first proper chance was Arda Güler, basically finding Mbappe with the first time lob ball. If the defender doesn't make a quick intervention, Mbappe probably banks it top corner. What do you make of this? Is this arguably a bigger partnership than the one we had with Vinicius and Jude Bellingham a couple of seasons ago?
I think this is a partnership in a very different sense. It's a more direct, and you could argue that the other partnership between Vinny and Jude was more complete in the sense that both of them did a little bit of either, of assisting and more Jude was also involved with the goals, and Vinny was also, because he played out wide and he starts out wide on several occasions. You would find him crossing the ball into Jude or into whoever was in the box. This is a more direct partnership in the sense that Arda is clearly the more precise assist maker, the creative playmaker, the one that's always going to be on the end of those through balls and those precise lob deliveries into Kylian Mbappe's feet. And it's just a matter of finding and picking out that run, because now that Mbappe has actually had time to, and also the freedom to settle into his position as Real Madrid's number 9, he understands his role perfectly well, I would say.
Yeah.
Like, he understands that he needs to make certain runs even if the ball's not coming to him. He understands that he needs to stay in the box and occupy a defender even if the ball's not coming to him. So truly because of that factor, I think Arda's precise through balls and his vision, more importantly, is being well exploited to its best. Because we always had Arda. We've had Arda for 3 seasons now, and he's never seemed more effective than now. He's never seemed more confident in his game than now, because Xabi Alonso actually gives him both the freedom and the players around him to be that player, to be that creative playmaker, to be that number 10 for Real Madrid, who, as much as Xabi wants him to defend and wants him to improve on his work ethic, he's always going to be that creative playmaker, and he's always going to be the last man who's going to come and press when we do lose the ball. And obviously about Kylian Mbappe, there's as much said about him, is little, because he's such a clinical finisher now. And at one point in his career, it never felt like he was going to be that, that number 9. He was always going to be that winger who cut in from the left. And at one point as PSG, he was obviously also playing on the right. So he's adapted so well, and he's understood his role, like I mentioned, so well, that you give him any creative playmaker around him. You give him Jude, because he even has a good link up with Jude. The assist in the Clasico was an absolute example of that.
Mbappe combines well with most players, I mean,
yeah. He
has a good relationship with
Mustang
Jude
as well.
Bellingham,
like in those first few seasons,
with Brahim as well.
First few games of this La Liga season, Mustang and Mbappe was a critical partnership to some of the goals that we scored. It's a shame that Mustang hasn't really, his form has dipped a little bit, and his pressing game, obviously, that is the most intense part of his game, but that's only going to amount for so much when he doesn't have the numbers. And also Camavinga has come back into the team, so that's also played a part. But as far as Mbappe and Arda goes, like, I'm absolutely happy with the balance that this has created. It's just that in bigger games where we do need another extra defensive midfielder, I don't know if Xabi Alonso is going to consider keeping Arda in the team. Well, in this type of form, maybe yes, but when Arda's form dips a little bit, is he really going to sacrifice Jude?
The thing is,
those are questions that will need to be answered.
No, 100% I agree, because Camavinga coming into the equation means that, like we saw in the Clasico, we have a quartet, right? Tchouaméni, Jude Bellingham, Arda Güler, Tchouaméni, Jude Bellingham, Arda Güler, and Camavinga, who, if they start together, I think is a really good mix of pure brute force and creativity. But when it comes to Arda Güler situation, it's almost like, he needs to work on his defensive side, but we can all agree that when it comes to from finding the first goal, or basically just kicking things off, it's Arda Güler. At this moment, there's nobody else who is taking that mantle. Not even Jude Bellingham can come close to how Arda Güler impacts the game, pretty early on. So at this rate, he absolutely has to keep his place. He starts without a question. At Anfield, I was a bit concerned, when he was clutching his ankle within seconds from kickoff. I think it was the first minute or something. There was a collective silence inside the Bernabeu when he actually went down, but thankfully it was nothing. It was barely a niggle, and Xabi Alonso, rightly protected him, not really setting him out for the second half. A good decision, in my opinion. But Yeah, it seems like Arda Güler is yeah. The more I see him, this guy has everything that it takes to be the next, big midfielder. Because the understanding of his game, the weight of his pass, the sort of runs he makes. If you remember for the goal, he absolutely has no need to actually, push, push the play into the byline by making that run inside for Jude Bellingham, but he actually does it.
Yeah.
So his intelligence is a huge asset, especially in the first half of the season. Because without Arda Güler, I would definitely argue we struggled to score a lot more, especially when Jude Bellingham was missing. So yeah, Arda Güler, arguably the best midfielder on form right now in the world, and
Yeah.
I don't
But
think
let me just
anybody
say,
can
Sunit,
argue with
the
that.
only reason we can afford to have Arda Güler and Jude Bellingham on the same side is because Tchouaméni is playing out of his mind right now, and everything that comes his way, he has cleared it, and he has, and in most games without even getting a yellow card, which is even more impressive. I know this game isn't really that much of a sample size or a metric to show judges defensive game, but in games that he has been tested, like he was absolutely tested against Barcelona in the Clasico, and he did well. And I'm sure he will be tested in the Liverpool game as well. Like no matter how bad form Liverpool bring into the game at Anfield, I think that they will be pumped up for a Champions League game against Real Madrid. It's just that the narrative this time is going to be a little bit distorted, if I must say, because usually when Real Madrid go to places like Anfield or the Etihad, the whole narrative in the English media is usually against Real Madrid, where we are the underdogs and we have something to prove, despite being 15 times Champions League winners. Um, it's just that with the Liverpool coming in to this game with such terrible form, I think six defeats in the last 7 games, if I'm not wrong.
They won tonight, I think. I'm not sure.
Okay, so and with Real Madrid coming in, with a Clasico victory and this confidence boosting win in their side, I think we are going to be we're not going to be heavy favorites, but we are going to be favorites even among English pundits. And one could argue like Liverpool have the same players that they did have last season. It's just that they're not clicking to the same extent. But it's going to be an exciting match in terms of the matchups, one, and in terms of again the ideological battle between Arne Slot and Xabi Alonso, two very
yeah,
very exciting
Liverpool
coaches.
is Liverpool is going to be a stern test.
Absolutely.
No matter what the form chart shows us, it's a big game. It's a European Classico. It's going to be fireworks. But um, coming to how we kind of navigated the first half again. I mean, Jude Bellingham's finish when he basically had again no right to actually cut in and unleash that shot. We have seen him do this time and time again. The low drilled, driven shot, basically unsavable every single time. When it doesn't work, it kind of looks funny, but when it does, and we all know, especially from his first season, what Jude Bellingham packs in his right foot. Um, Sensational finish. I like the fact that he's playing with the swagger that he kind of lost probably towards the beginning of this year. Um, this is Jude Bellingham back to his very best. I do feel feel like he has earned the trust and the respect back because if you remember the shenanigans that goes on in the English press in terms of whether Jude Bellingham is he worth enough of a place in the national side. I couldn't believe my ears, but this was a question that was posed to Thomas Michel at one of the press conferences in the international break. So um, this is gonna surely sit down a few of the doubters and really make Jude Bellingham again the yeah the, I would say behind Arda Güler he's the number three, in terms of the most important players on the pitch for us. Every time he steps on the pitch, it's almost like we have uh, a different sense of quality, a different sense of aggression, a purpose. Um, compared to when Jude Bellingham was missing. I feel like we look flat. We look a lot less industrious when he's off the pitch. He offers so much, just like Fede Valverde. He is just absolutely incredible. But one thing that I'm concerned is, how are we gonna actually push all these players into the into the 11? Because going off of what Franco Mastantuono is going through, I know people are going to be really really keen on pointing out the fact that he has work rate, the way he kind of presses, and the sort of willingness he has in terms of tracking back, and sometimes just chasing down blind alleys. We need that in the side. At the same time, like Sahil was mentioning earlier, Franco Mastantuono doesn't really have the cutting edge that we need at this moment in time. It's almost like we are too reliant. We were all very, very annoyed at the fact that it was a left-hand side that was always being relied on for counterattacks, for attacking when we're building up from the back. It's always the left-hand side. The right-hand side is basically a crutch. The right-hand side being, Franco Mastantuono and Fede Valverde, and at this moment in time, it really looks like, it's an afterthought, because Mastantuono cuts inside most of the time. I think he took on his defender on the outside maybe once this entire night.
Yeah.
I was happy that he was confident in his right foot to actually deliver the cross and whatnot, but in totality, he just isn't a natural winger. I've said this from day one. Yes, he looks good. Yes, he is a great player. Yes, he has a great mentality. He's really, really positive. I love that about Franco. But when it comes to, providing the width, actually stretching defenses and really creating space for himself, at least right now, the player that he is more of an inside forward or an inside midfielder rather than a winger that we badly need. I really sit here and scratch my head at times, because Rodrigo and his camp really wants him to play the left wing, where he's going to get 10% of the minutes that he got for the last couple of seasons this year, it looks like, because even in games when we're leading 3-0, it takes until the 77th minute to actually get him on. I do think as the season goes by, Franco Mastantuono's place in the side will be a question. And
rightly so, right, Sunaid? Like, are we really surprised? Because obviously he started off at great intensity. He started off showing Real Madrid supporters that a winger can press at the same time, as being involved in the general build-up play and create chances as well. So we don't doubt that he's technically gifted, and we don't doubt that he has a brilliant left foot, which, a young boy from Argentina, 18 years of age, the likeness of which we've seen before, and I'm not going to mention the name, but there's a lot of pressure on this kid, right? Because he was introduced into the starting 11 pretty abruptly. So we mustn't forget that he is a young player who's been given that chance very, very, as I mentioned, abruptly. And also there's other players his age, Endrick, that needs to be mentioned, that haven't played nearly as much as they should or be deserving, purely because of the positional battle, and because there is a player in this position who's just, who's the absolute best player in the world right now, Mbappe. So I think Mastantuono is also very lucky and very fortunate in that sense, that there is no player in his position who's, right now, who's playing out of his mind, who's actually going to push him out of this 11. Because I don't think Brahim is that player. I think Brahim is a rotation player. Right? I don't think Rodrigo is right now at this moment that player. I know Rodrigo has the potential to be, because like you mentioned, I mean, his camp doesn't want him to be playing on the right wing.
But let me ask you this side.
Yeah,
I've heard so many people complain. Us the new generation football fans. They aren't really paying attention. They're all about the numbers and the metrics. If you aren't really posting numbers on the board, you aren't good enough. They would basically back Mastantuono in that case and be like, he brings a lot more than goals and assists to the side. He brings a sense of balance to the front line and whatnot. But I beg to disagree. Yes, he does all that, but against top quality opposition, we need some sort of a bankable threat on our right to actually function. That's my
and what is our most direct goal scoring threat right now? It's feeding the ball to Mbappe. Does it do it? Does Mastantuono, when he plays, even at his best, does he do it nearly as much as he should be effectively and with clinicality? I don't think so. Like, he has a lot of pieces of individual skill and brilliance where he gets past players, and he has energetic pace with his dribbling, with his when he goes on the inside and when he presses. But does he put the ball into Mbappe's feet enough times, or does he put the ball into Jude's feet enough
times? He had a brilliant layup for Fede Valverde, if you remember, in the first half, where Fede Valverde completely misses the kick.
I don't have a problem with how much balance there's between Mastantuono and Valverde, because at the end of the day, they're both midfielders playing out of position, right? And you've already mentioned that. So I don't think that's surprising that there's a sense of imbalance on the right hand side with Mastantuono and Valverde playing. It's a little bit more chaotic. It's a little bit more fun, if you ask me. But also, like, when it comes to cutting edge, we see two things. We see a lack of end product, where his final ball or his shot at goal isn't good enough at times, right? And there's also a lot of connect with the players around him. And I mentioned that his connect with Mbappe and that link up did seem surprisingly effective at in the first few games of the season, but it's not really reflected in his general play with anybody else. I don't think Brahim has that problem, because he's been here long enough to have that sense of understanding of when to pass and when to stay and when to go.
It's more older player, much more experience. Yes, Brahim has played in 3 different leagues in his career.
So we're not surprised that Brahim has that advantage over him. But that also doesn't mean that Brahim is going to play more minutes than him, because at the end of the day, Mastantuono is Mastantuono, and Xabi Alonso is going to judge him at face value for what he brings to this team, which is a lot of pressing, which is a lot of cutting inside. It's just that the next step towards him being a regular starter for this team will be his end product. So at the end of the day, he's going to be judged by that. I don't know if he likes that or not, but with Jude, you could absolutely make a case for him. That's unfair. That's outrightly unfair to judge a player of his quality and for what he's done and for what he continues to do by his numbers. But when even if Mastantuono is a natural midfielder, if he's being positioned as a right winger, I would I would absolutely judge him by his end product, regardless of how much pressure is there on him. So it's a warped situation, right? It's very distorted reality, where we're judging an 18-year-old based on how many goals he's scoring for the biggest player, for the biggest club in the world. But it is what it is. He is extremely fortunate to be in the position where he is right now.
Let me get into a few of the comments quickly.
I think most of it just it's going to be my
leave it.
Yeah.
Sile. Just leave it. Random guy was mentioning Xabi is still in the process of implementing the foundation for this team. Still a long way to go. He was mentioning get those wins against Liverpool and Rayo before the international break. Random guy was mentioning Xabi Alonso is putting big trust in Franco at the moment, but Xabi Alonso should have a good backup plan for the right wing position as well. Before February, Xabi should figure it out and get the right wing position ready for the latter phase of the season. It's not easy as you think it is, because I'm not sure we have a really good right winger in terms of that we had promoted the Fabrica, and also Rodrigo isn't really in the equation for the right wing position anymore, which really bothers me at this point, because if you're happy enough to actually be on the bench rather than playing right wing position where you have played before and then try to manage to do something, I'm not sure what's going on with that. Ashik was mentioning Brahim will be gone in December. And generally, for the AFCON, Morocco is the host. Oh yeah, I completely forgot about that.
Damn.
Yeah.
So the whole of January is that? It's a month-long competition, isn't it?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm assuming with the kind of form Morocco are in, they're gonna make it far in that competition. Maybe even win it. But Yeah, I mean, it'll be a little bit of a loss, but it's going to be a good chance for other players to. And also, do you
They
think
wanna.
it's right
Mm,
that Rodrigo just doesn't want to play on the right wing? Like, I know we mentioned it, but are we just going to pretend it's normal? Because we had Cristiano in the past when he was pretty much Rodrigo's age. Say that he can play anywhere across the front line. He doesn't care where the manager plays him as long as
mm.
he plays him. And because he believed in his talent and his sense of quality so much, he knew he could excel
We don't
anywhere
really know
across the front
what's
three.
we don't really know what's going on. Like I'm just purely guessing. It is Rodrigo's decision to actually not prefer the right wing, but I do think Rodrigo just isn't really pulling up trees in training. Same with Endrick. There's a reason why these guys get barely any minutes because everything depends on you're showing in training. Um, uh, yeah, I think that's pretty much it for me because we have to trust the manager because he sees a lot of what we don't see. And the narrative is it really exists for a reason. Rodrigo never really fancied the right wing position. He struggled in that position, and you may be right in the sense that he doesn't really want to play the position. But who knows? Who knows? Like if he was actually really really performing well in training, don't you think the management would find a way to convince him to actually play right wing? So
I mean,
yeah,
they did it for several years where he was
when
actually
when he was actually
contributing.
when he was actually on it, if
Yeah.
you if you look at Rodrigo on the bench, he is a defeated man. So yeah, I think his career at Madrid is done. Unfortunately, he was one of my favorite players. Yeah, he's my baby, but yeah, I think the chapter is completely over. Yeah, it's not easy for me to talk about it, but yeah, when you look at him on the bench, yeah, it's a
He
face
is a
up.
defeated figure
Yeah,
on the bench. I don't think
yeah,
anybody's going to disagree on that.
mm, yeah. I think he's completely resigned to the fact that he is what at best fourth choice, third choice winger. That's insane. That is insane. Moving on. Yeah, the
This
Spark
is
Sports.
purely a result of
Mm,
um, this whole hierarchy where Vinny is Vinny considers himself inferior to Mbappe and in his shadow, and then Rodrigo also, uh, you know, also doesn't get the amount of chances that his talent deserves because Vinny
mhm.
is just even if he doesn't perform, he's going to be playing in that position and he's going to be starting games for the team in that position. So this whole hierarchy, I feel, is a result of the very superstar culture that we aim to build. The management is brought into this team, and I think that is a little bit the downside of the whole Galactico philosophy.
As
It
much
was
as
with
I
the
love
first team as well.
Rodrigo, as much as I thought at times, yeah, Rodrigo is the more complete player, the player that has a lot more to his game than Vinicius. When
Yeah,
Rodrigo gets the chances, just doesn't deliver. So
that is true. Yeah,
nobody can really back him. Nobody can really back him. He can't back himself. I mean, yeah, I think at this point it's a foregone conclusion with Rodrigo, unless he does something incredible from February until May, and has a significant
he
contribution.
will get his chance, and I don't doubt that he will get his chance. He will start games eventually,
He'll start games. That doesn't matter. So you know,
and
with that said,
That's where he has to
mm,
produce, right?
I don't
That's
think he
how
has
football
enough in him.
works.
I don't think he has enough in him
That only
at
time
this
will tell.
at
Naveen.
this point in his career.
Only time will tell,
This
Sunil.
the Madrid version of Rodrigo. I don't think has it in him to actually reverse the tide and pull up a hat trick in a La Liga game, and then put himself in contention for a starting spot out of a big Champions League tie. I think it's beyond him. But
You say
but I
Madrid
have seen
version
it.
of him as if he goes for Brazil and scores to scores a brace and casually, because he isn't performing either way.
Yeah, like I said, I don't think it's within his. I don't think he has the facilities anymore. The Madrid version, like he can excel elsewhere in a different side, with much less pressure, completely new environment. But with us, Yeah, I don't really see him back in the equation. I'll be happy to be proven wrong. I really would love to see him, have a long career with us, but nah, not at this rate. But yeah, moving on. Yeah, the first half 3-0, easy peasy. The second half was one of the most boring halves of football I've seen in my entire lifetime. I don't know why we had to actually sit through that, but we had to. The saving grace,
I mean, it was worth it
The
because Carreras is better.
Carreras' finish, insane
I didn't know he
finish.
had it in him. I didn't know he had it in him to shoot from that range or from that
Mm,
angle, for that matter. Like,
yeah.
I think it was Ashik mentioned that he brought out his inner Roberto Carlos. So
Mm.
yeah,
Decent finish. Again, Rodrigo attempting to curl the ball in. The amount of times I've seen Rodrigo hit a man or or his shots get completely blocked. It's insane. Like he has
he is
absolutely
getting very
no
predictable.
awareness.
Even when he plays from the left, he's getting
Mm,
very predictable. Uh,
yeah.
it's not like Vinny is not predictable, but Vinny has the match sharpness and the raw pace and power to go past
Mm,
players. So even if
yeah.
he is predictable, he's going to do it anyway. I don't think Rodrigo has either of those factors
Mm,
in his favor. Certainly not right now.
yeah. But yeah, the Carreras goal. I mean, it is one for the one for the cameras. He was actually mentioning. I hit the ball with all my soul. Um, it showed in the finish. Hit with such venom. The keeper didn't have any chance to actually reach it. If you actually saw the angle behind the Carreras, from behind him, you could actually see the ball take a slight dip. Really unexpected dip when it kind of reaches the 6 yard box. It's yeah, one of those goals that really gets you up off your seat. I hope it's the first of many for Carreras, because us having a legitimate left back with a goal threat is something that we have cried out for a long time. We saw glimpses from Garcia at times. If you remember Mendy's finish against Atlanta, 4 years ago, crucial goal. Bending it from outside the box. Yeah, we need our wing backs contributing. I know the game has moved on from wing backs really being a goal threat, apart from the outliers like Hakimi and Nuno Mendes. We need our own boys to actually have thread down the right and the left. Fede Valverde provided, if you remember, like in the first half, he hit an outside of the boot Trivela, bending just wide from the corner, I think. So if Fede is playing right back, we have a proper threat. But yeah, Carreras doing that on the left really makes me happy. Super nice academy boy as well. Dream day for him, for sure, for sure. Um, but yeah, one final question I would like to pose to you, Sahil. What did you think about the midfield structure we had? With I know it's Valencia. Uh, I know that Valencia doesn't really have
Yeah.
the midfield strength of probably the top sides in Europe. Javi Guerra, their brightest prospect, didn't even start the game. That just got to show they're a team in complete disarray at this moment in time. But Chouameni playing alone CDM, and
Yeah.
Arda Güler and Jude Bellingham either side of him as inside forwards or inside midfielders. Um, how did you like that? Like do you think it's a very viable option for us, especially when Kamavinga doesn't play?
So when Kamavinga isn't going to play, is going to be all the games that Xabi Alonso expects the team to dominate and absolutely outrightly outplay the team that is in
Mm-hmm.
front of us. And today was one of those games because he trusts Tchouaméni to sit at the base of that midfield and actually one, dictate the tempo of the game alongside Bellingham, uh, and two, also cut out any threat that Valencia or any opposition team have when they do get hold of the ball. And that was very rare in today's scenario because Real Madrid actually kept the ball so well, and when Valencia actually didn't even. They didn't stand a chance when it came to getting anywhere near the ball. So I think they pretty much gave up after the first 7-10 minutes of the game. on trying to win the ball back in midfield, because we essentially have Tchouaméni and you have two tens in Arda and Bellingham, where neither of them are playing as six or holding themselves back as an eight. Both of them are outrightly playing as tens on either flank. And you also have Mastantuono, who, like you mentioned, is a natural midfielder, and he's always going to have that tendency to cut in on his left foot, even when he is playing as a winger. You have Valverde, who's always going to try and come in narrow and occasionally make those runs. So you have a lot of chaos. You have a lot of runners in midfield, which gives you a lot of options to one, shoot from range like Bellingham did, to put in crosses with crosses, or feed the ball to Mbappe with Arda. So I think there's a lot of balance. I wish there was more a sense of distribution from Tchouaméni, especially when you're up against a low block and you want to take that pressure away from one side of the pitch and give the ball away to the opposition, to the opposite side fullback, which usually Valverde isn't really making that run because he comes in really narrow. I used to miss that. The Toni Kroos ball to Carvajal was one of the trademark signs of a Real Madrid build-up. Every time the pressure builds up on one side, you distribute it to the other side. So I think that is one thing that's lacking a little bit. But I don't think
we lack width on the right.
Absolutely.
We discussed this earlier. I mean, it's a concern. We need natural width on the right. I mean, Fede Valverde is really good overlapping. He does that rarely.
That is true, but I think that's going to be instructions on some level
for sure.
to Valverde.
It's a tactical instruction. Yeah.
On a purely subconscious level, Valverde is he's never going to be a player who's keeping himself back on his own without an external force from attacking or running into space. He's a natural runner. So I think there's a good balance of creativity, defensive absorption of pressure, and obviously the option to have Camavinga on the pitch when you need more defensive protection is an excellent one, because then you're essentially bringing in a player who has the legs, has the slide tackles in him, is a great enabler of risk taking and defensive counterattacks. And so he also, again, Camavinga's best skill is his ball carrying. So you have all-round players in that midfield, which give us a sense of stability. And again, you mentioned the word structure, because with 5 players in midfield, you're going to see a whole chess board of players moving around. When you have Bellingham in a different position than he was 2 minutes ago, when you have Mastantuono cutting in, when you have Tchouaméni, again, Tchouaméni is more or less in his position all the time, but everything around Tchouaméni is moving. So I feel it's beautiful that Xabi Alonso has mastered, not mastered, like I wouldn't even say perfected, but at least brought to some sense of fruition that you can see a sense of semblance and structure with this midfield. Because sometimes when Real Madrid press and you ask for a sense of pattern, you want pattern recognition with tactics. I think that's what Xabi Alonso has managed to achieve with this midfield combination. It hasn't come with our defending, it hasn't come with our pressing, but at least with this one particular part of the pitch, I think he's achieved something here.
Yeah, like you said, there's a lot more well choreographed movements, shall I say, especially with the front line, and the dynamism that this kind of setup provides is great. But will it work against the elite midfield setups of the bigger sides? Only time will tell. But I was really happy with how many options we had, both on the ball and off the ball. Whenever we lost the ball, it was Jude Bellingham pressing from the front, tracking back. Arda Güler putting in the shift as well.
I forgot to mention Ceballos, by the way. Excellent at keeping the ball when you need him to finish out a game. Always happy to do that role.
I mean, I've seen some Ceballos all over the years. He does what we ask of him, but we can't rely on him too much. But a decent outing for Ceballos. Camavinga also pretty decent. Endrick, I think, had a great run on the outside on the right. Basically, if if he doesn't get pulled down, I do think he creates a really dangerous opportunity. That was more of a threat than anything Franco Mastantuono did for the entirety of his time on the right. Um, but yeah, I don't want to criticize the kid too much. It's pretty early in his career. He has a long way to
Yeah.
go, still learning the position. Um, but yeah, yeah, we said pretty man. 8 points atop La Liga. Barcelona play against Elche, if I'm not mistaken, tomorrow. Um, I'm not sure if they're at home or away, but yeah, either way, I do think they pick up all 3 points. So yeah, we have to just keep grinding them wins and keeping Barcelona, at an arm's length, and yeah, just ride it on, man. I mean, at this point in the season, there is no time to relax because from now until April, May, it's a long sprint. Quickly to some comments. A random guy was mentioning there's a big chance either Vinny or Rodrigo will leave by the end of the season. I'm sure that's going to happen, but I hope you're wrong. He was also saying Carreras is good with his shots with Benfica. He scored some very good goals. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, he has a good cannon in him. Um, Ashik was mentioning we have a natural left back with a goal threat, and now we have no right back, all injured. We can't just have both at the same time anymore. Yeah, yeah. Asking for a well balanced side is too much, especially with the kind of recruitment and kind of luck we have had with injuries. It's a bit too much to ask. A random guy was mentioning, Barca, may Barca get a draw tomorrow? Yeah, hopefully. But yeah, I'm not going to expect much from Barcelona, who tends to do themselves, a great amount of good favors, whenever they play in La Liga. We just have to, yeah, take take it a game at a time and yeah, start racking up those wins, man. We need it badly because I think the next Clasico would be sometime in April, away at Barcelona. The chances of us winning it, I don't think it looks great. No matter
Yeah,
what
but
form
that's a long
Barcelona
time
is in.
away. That's a long time away, isn't it?
I'm just saying, no matter what form we are in, winning away at Barcelona isn't really, something that we can bank on to win the league, if you know what I mean. So I just know because I've seen enough games
Over the
in my
years.
life.
Yeah.
Yeah, enough Clásicos in my life to actually know that winning away at Barcelona is a tall order. But yeah, Liverpool away Tuesday, big night. I hope we have a good outing and we actually manage to beat them because they're the most insufferable fans on Mother Earth. I hate them as equally as I hate Atleti Barcelona. Liverpool is a side that I absolutely want to see them buried deep inside a grave, where they're not coming back from. We just need to kill them off pretty early. They're actually backpedaling, so this is the time to actually go for a knockout blow. They were talking too much smack last season when we lost to them 2-0, half string side, Mbappe missing a pen and whatnot. This is the right moment to actually, yeah, set some records straight. You know, we need more of that 5-2 comeback that we had. A couple of years ago with Karim Benzema. We need more of that. We need more of that. Mbappe, anyways, looks like in that kind of mood. This is his time.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, boys, big up the people in the chat. Big up people who are going to be tuning in later on as well. Big up our sponsors. Make sure you look out for a preview. I'm not sure what the timing would be, but it probably would be Monday. For a Liverpool preview. Farouk and Kanish would be joined by hopefully a guest. We are talking to a couple of people. I hope it works out, with the schedule and the timing and whatnot. But yeah, boys, thanks for all the love. And until next time, Ala Madrid.
100 boys. All right.